We all face choices in life. Um, Choices can be difficult for obvious reasons. If you choose to do one thing, but you could have chosen to do another thing, there's a part of you that will always wonder, what if? What would have happened if? What might have occurred if? Should I have done this, or should I have done that? And this is kind of sort of, people use all kinds of things to remove themselves from the complexity of this problem. The religion, the idea of fate, of well, is God's plan, things of that nature, kind of relieves the stress of some big choices, I think. Um, but Today I wanted to talk about something that relates to choice, which is dilemmas, different kinds of dilemmas. Um, the first kind of dilemma I wanted to speak about was Hobson's choice. Um, this is a dilemma when you have multiple choices, but none of them are desirable. They're all a little bit something that you would prefer not to do. And this is sort of, you're in a, a bit of a quandary. You're in a bit of a conundrum. We have funny words to describe this kind of. In a pickle is a little popular expression. All of them are goofy, and I think they're all goofy, expressions about this because it's so horrifying that we can't come up with a scary word for it because we're trying to make it less scary. But it's when you face a choice and none of the choices are good. This is obviously terrible. This is obviously something that all of us at one time or another have faced, but we try to avoid it because we always, I think we have to be a little optimistic in nature, or everything is just too depressing sometimes. So you always, I know personally, I always look for the bright side. I always look for the best choice. I always look, I make wrong choices, but sometimes I think, well, this could have been good. Like, even when I made the bad choice, I think, well, how could I have known really what would happen? I mean, it's not entirely my fault, and maybe some good did come of it after all. But you can't really do that with a Hobson's choice. So, you know, that's one type of dilemma. Another type of dilemma is a false dilemma. Now, false dilemmas are actually pretty good if you recognize it as being a false dilemma in time before you've made your choice. A false dilemma is basically where you feel like you only have so many choices, but what you're not realizing is that there's a better choice, that you still haven't considered, a third choice. Or if you have three choices, there's a fourth choice that you didn't know about. This is great. It As long, of course, as I said before, as you recognize it before you've made the choice. It would suck to, after you've made the choice, go, oh my gosh, I could have done that, but I made. I mean, imagine if you're in a Hobson's choice. They're all bad, but there's that one shining, choice out there, and you've already made the bad choice, and you just that would be bad. But if you're in the middle of your decision making process and you have so many choices, and you're just like, oh, I could do this, but I could also do that, but I could also do this thing, but but dot dot dot. Um, and then you have this new choice that comes along and it saves you. Um, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So that's a false dilemma. False dilemmas are not bad as long as you realize you're in one before you've made your choice. Another type, and this is sort of it's a little different, but it's another type of dilemma. It's the catch-22, which of course is an expression taken from a delightful, hilarious novel that I won't get into. Maybe for a future video we could discuss that book. That book is hysterical, and very very to this day it's a lot of fun to read and you can get a lot out of it. But a catch-22 is basically a logical paradox where you need something that can only be acquired by not being in the exact situation that you're actually in. This is pretty bad. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. It's funny enough by itself that it doesn't need, kind of the different expressions that Hobson's choices have, the in a pickle, in a conundrum, in a quandary, that kind of thing. We don't need those because the situation itself is pretty funny. Um, but again, not a great place to be in because it's an impossible situation and nothing you do really is going to help you. Um, this is not good, but they seem to be rare enough in my life that I'm removed from it enough that I don't really I'm not really stressed about it. But this would be a bad situation. Catch 22s are things that um, aren't very good. Um, then there's this thing called the Morton's fork or a double bind. Um, and this is basically when you have two choices that yield um, the same, usually undesirable result. Um, so it's sort of like you have a choice, but no matter what you choose, it corrects itself and it does the same basic outcome, either way, and it's usually not something you would prefer. This also kind of is frustrating, I think. This lends credence to those ideas of, well, it's out of your hands. There's a higher power, or some sort of divine joke, or it's what are we really? Just ants, just bumbling around on the planet. Um, it kind of does humble you a bit because it's like, you know what, my actions really aren't going to have a huge effect either way. The same results are going to happen. I think this is preferable, maybe, to some of these other dilemmas that I've discussed with you today. A Morton's fork, which is kind of fun. I don't know who Morton was, but it's an interesting. Or it's also called a double bind, and this is an interesting one. Um, is interesting. It kind of is like what people sort of wish they could believe anyway. Is just that fate will whisk you away. So double binds aren't so bad on the severity of, on the scale of what's a good kind of dilemma and what's a bad kind of dilemma. I'd say double binds are pretty preferable to other kinds, certainly to a Hobson's choice or a Catch 22. Um, and that's probably there are more types of dilemmas, but I'm just not really gonna worry about them too much. But I did want to clear something up that I see a lot of people, mistaking, and it's sort of a choice. This is a word choice that I want to talk about. People, you know, they mix these up all the time, and maybe with some more information, choosing the right word in your next sentence that would use one of these words will come a little easier to you. We'll see. We'll see what you do with this. Biennial means every 2 years. That means every 2 years this thing happens. That's biennial. That's what biennial means. Okay? Okay. Biannual, 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 not biennial, but biannual, or semi-annual means twice a year. Biennial means every 2 years. Biannual or semi-annual means twice a year. That should help you. That should help most of you. It helped me, but it should help all of us. Honestly, it would be. Hopefully, this is useful. Just keep that in mind. Biennial, biannual, different words.